Nothing ventured, nothing gained. I mean, it always takes an element of risk. But if you don't risk anything, you're never going to get anything either. So it's how can we mitigate the risk and make that as safe as possible? But you still have to take some risk, and people are going to pull you down. Welcome, Income Hackers. This is your host, Ryan G. Wright. This podcast is for individuals and families who are interested in fast-tracking their financial success. You'll hear experts discussing topics like generating a residual cash flow, building wealth through real estate, financial literacy, creating a family legacy, and overcoming your fears. If you get value out of this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It's a big help to me. There's a lot of people, it's like, hey, quit your job, quit your job, quit your job. And that's cool if that's really what you want to do. My concerns with that is make sure you don't do that too early, for somebody that's wanting to do that. And make sure you also do it for the right reasons. Because as we talk about income hacks, there's a lot of benefits to having a 9-to-5 job, from 401k to health insurance to stable income and those things. And if you can do your job plus real estate and do both of those, that's ideal. If you end up making enough money where you want to quit your job, that's great. The problem that I think most people run into is they don't realize they're trading one job for another job. So, because if you're doing real estate to put food on the table, that becomes a job as well. Now, it may be a more high-paying job than you currently have, and it may not be. You may have a higher-paying job than you could do in real estate, and then you do real estate to supplement. We talk about wearing both hats. You have your day job. I don't care if that's real estate investing or, working at a hospital, whatever the case is. Then you have your investing job. Your investing job is growing your long-term wealth. Your day job is paying the bills. That day job may be real estate investing, but you still have a day job because you got to put food on the table, and everybody has to do that.
I had a habit of jumping from strategy to strategy. I always wanted to do real estate. I never changed industries. But if you're going from landlording to wholesaling to fix and flip, you're not completing anything because you're just jumping from strategy to strategy. I got that aha moment. I just happened to read this book, which is called The Art of Ona Financing. And it just woke me up and said, wait a minute, this is what I want to do. I don't have to own the property per se. I could buy it with cash or buy it if it's free and clear, which we prefer to get into in owner financing, and then either rent it out or do a rent to own. And I realized that I could be the bank. And that's where that aha moment came to me. I'm like, okay, I might not have the tax advantages that a homeowner has or a landlord, but this is what I want to do. If the air conditioning break, that cash flow that I received the month before is going to belong to me instead of going to the air conditioning repairman. So that was my aha moment when I said, wait a minute, I could do owner financing and become a bank.
And what can our Income Hacker listeners learn from your success?
Well, my first property that I bought in 2017. Now, one thing I won't suggest to anybody is to buy it cash. Now, the property was worth, or it was on the market for like $27,000, and it was bank owned. I called a realtor up and I told him, this is what I'd like to do. I want to do owner financing. I want to promote home ownership in the Pennsylvania area, Ryan. So I live in New York. I never got to see the property,
wow.
But I was lucky enough that the realtor I had at the time was investor friendly. I made an offer of $8,000 in cash.
Okay.
He turned it down. 2 weeks later, I got a call from that same realtor and asked me if I'm still interested. I said, of course. I said, but I'm not going higher than $8,000. So I wired the money over to the title company. In Pennsylvania, you could use a title company compared to New York, where it's mostly you have to use a lawyer. And then I put it back on the market for the same price that they were selling it, $25,000 to $27,000. I found a buyer within like a week or two, give or take. And so I'm collecting the difference between, what I paid and what I'm receiving. So in other words, I'm getting a decent amount of income for that one property. And that was my success story because I figured, I'm like, oh my God, it does work. If I can work, this can work. And that was my mindset, Ryan, was just to focus on one thing.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained. I mean, it always takes an element of risk. But if you don't risk anything, you're never going to get anything either. So it's how can we mitigate the risk and make that as safe as possible? But you still have to take some risk, and people are going to pull you down.
So I did my research. It's all about doing your research and making phone calls. Call a realtor. You know, it's not bad to work with them, and you just give them your idea. This is what you want to do. And lucky I had a realtor at the time that was investor friendly, knew the area inside out, knew what I wanted to do. It's all about just leveraging the assets you have, which is people.
Yeah, I love it. And there's a lot you can learn online, but there's even more you can learn from talking to people.
Yeah.
You know, we use crime reports quite frequently.
Yeah,
So you have
that's
a
the
really,
one.
really,
Crime
yeah, I
reports,
like
yeah.
crime reports and know really what's happening in the area. So that's fantastic. Great, great information.
So lease purchase basically is if the property has a mortgage on it, right? Now it could be also free and clear, but if it has a mortgage on it, you approach the owner and say, hey, listen, I'm willing to lease this from you for a couple of years if you give me the permission to sublet it to someone else, to a tenant buyer that I have. The tenant buyer is going to make the payments to me. I'm staying in the middle and I'm making the payments to you. So that's basically like a sandwich lease purchase. But you're guaranteeing that you're going to cash out the seller within a couple of years, whether it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Now, obviously, check out the laws in every state. Everything is different.
We're not attorneys. We're not CPAs.
Exactly.
We're not that. But these are strategies.
Right. So once you get a professional on your team that can help you structure the paperwork. So that's pretty much a lease purchase. It's just basically you're leasing it with the intent to buy it at a certain date. It's not a lease option where you might buy it. A lease purchase, you will buy it.
Always, without fail, it's not hard for people to come up with mistakes. And I want to highlight something here is there's a difference between a mistake and a failure. A mistake means we're moving forward, we learn from it. And a failure is when we give up. I mean, even like a great deal that you did, you had mistakes on that. And that's okay. You learn from it, you know what to do, but not taking action is a failure. You know, overpaying for property or something happening is a mistake, and you can learn and adjust and become better because of it. So I see a lot of people are so worried about making a mistake they never take action. So I want to clarify a couple things on this.
Sure.
You can buy on a lease option. So lease option basically says I can go and say, hey, I'll buy this property. I'm going to rent this property with the option to purchase this property.
Exactly.
Meaning I'll rent it for 5 years or 3 years or whatever. I'll pay you X number of dollars in rent. And at the end of 3 to 5 years, I have the option to purchase the property, or like you're saying, on a lease purchase, I have the obligation to purchase this property in a few years. But what I wanted to ask you about with the seller financing or the owner financing, are you putting any money down on those transactions, or how does that typically look like?
I usually put earnest money deposit down. Maybe the one in Pittsburgh, I didn't have to. But there was another one that I did. I had to put down maybe like $2,000, but then I got that back from the tenant buyer when I got, I usually charge like 7% down payment. So I got that money. Yeah, as a deposit, and I got that money back. So that's how I usually work. I'll put it up, or if not, I'll wait 30, 35 days until my tenant buyer puts it up. Then I just give them the money out of the tenant buyer's pocket.
Income hackers, if you are listening right now, you just heard Willie goes and finds a free and clear property. He offers them exactly what they're asking. They sell it to him on terms. He puts a few $1,000s down. Then he turns around, does a lease option, gets 7%, so $7,000 down in that $100,000 example, or maybe even a little bit more, which more than covers him. He makes money. Plus, he makes money monthly. This is a strategy people can use with not much money to get started with. A lot of people say, how do I get started in real estate? Oh, it takes too much money. Oh, I'm going to have to get a loan. We do lots of lending, all that type of stuff. Oh, I have a problem. I have a judgment or whatever. Like, this is a strategy. Willie's doing it. It can be done. And keep in mind on these seller financing deals, on a worst case scenario, if somebody gets in there and they're there a couple of years and then they can't buy it for some reason, which I assume Willie's working with credit repair companies to help get their credit in order, and that probably has a mortgage broker that's working with them and keeping in touch with them before he even puts them in the house. That's usually part of the strategy. But let's say those guys can't do it. If he bought it for $100 and it's 2 years later, he's paid down that property. If it's $1,000 payment, let's just say, he's paid it down $24,000. So he can just list the property for sale and just put it on the market, put it on the MLS, it's wholesale the property. I mean, now he's got an equity spread And if the property's appreciated, now maybe that property that was worth 100 is worth 110. Now he's got $34,000 worth of equity already built into it on a worst case scenario. Now, hopefully he'll just get another lease option tenant in there, give him another couple of years. They end up buying it. If not, he can go back to the seller and renegotiate. Hey, I've done a great job for you. Why don't you give me another few more years and I'll put somebody in. If I can't, I can sell it. I can put it on the MLS. Like, you have lots of options. Because I think I can hear some of the people listening maybe saying, "Oh no, what if?" And it's like you have lots of options in a strategy like this.
Live out your dream. Don't let anyone steal them from you. No one's going to pay your rent. You control your own destiny, and just go for it. Don't let anyone steer you wrong. It's your life. You have to live it the way you want to live it.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for being on the show today, Willie. Income Hackers. Great to have you with us. You have so much wisdom dropped today. Take it to heart, make something happen, and make it a great day. If you got value out of our discussion today, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It's a big help to me. Also, please share with a friend. Nothing is more valuable than creating financial friends who are like-minded. You can do that by inviting them to listen to the Income Hacker podcast. Bye for now, and make it a very profitable day.